What is a low oxalate plan? First, in order to understand what a low oxalate plan is, we have to understand what oxalates are. What is an oxalate? So, this is a compound that is commonly found in many plants, especially ones that we eat. What happens is when we ingest these plants, we get this byproduct called the oxalate. Oxalates are very commonly found in green leafy vegetables like spinach. It's also found in certain fruits like kiwi. So, when we look at eating a low oxalate plant, we really have to understand which plants have the highest amount so that we can avoid them. Now, going back to the low oxalate plan, who needs to be on this plan? Well, someone who has been instructed by their doctor, usually a urologist or other physician that has established that there is one, chronic kidney stones that is being caused by the oxalate, or you are someone who has a known oxalate intolerance. And so what happens is sometimes our bodies can't break down this oxalate and we have unpleasant symptoms like migraines, joint pain, gastric discomfort. There are a slew of things that people can struggle with when they do have an oxalate intolerance. When we are looking at setting up a meal that is low to moderate oxalate, which is going to give us anywhere from 6 to 12 milligrams of oxalate per day, 6 being on the low end, 12 being on the moderate end. Some people say that you can go up to 20 milligrams of oxalate. Really, it matters how you feel, especially for those with chronic kidney stones. If you're still throwing stones, because a lot of times you can feel it and have that discomfort if you're eating too many oxalates. So I want to break this down by macronutrient. What's a macronutrient? It's the three biggest portions of our food that food is made into. So it's proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So looking at protein, pretty much any lean meat is going to be acceptable. Chicken, turkey, beef, means any lean cuts of steak. You can have eggs, chicken or duck eggs if you prefer duck eggs. Not quite as common here in the United States, but if you're seeing this internationally, I know a lot of people outside of the United States do eat duck eggs. A lot of dairy products are generally low oxalate, so cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, milk, etc. All these are great protein options. Now, when looking at plant protein, it gets a little sticky because plants have oxalates, right? When you're looking at legumes, beans, things of that sort, they are considered moderate oxalate. Now, my philosophy is moderation in all things. Even when you're on a diet like this that is specific to a medical condition, I will tell you to just have smaller portion sizes. For example, if you really like lentils, well, then allow yourself to have these lentils, but make sure you are really measuring this out so you're not going up at high oxalate ranges. So maybe 1/4, 1 cup tops per meal of lentils, and maybe not eating those lentils for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I know like people like to food prep and they'll eat multiple things throughout the day. Lentils being one of the moderate oxalate ones, you don't want to repeat that. Soy products, another one. It's a protein source, yes, and it's a great protein source for vegetarians, but if you're low oxalate, it can add up really fast. So when you're eating tofu or edamame, things of that sort, making sure that you're really moderating those portions, minimizing those chances of, eating a high oxalate meal and then being miserable the rest of the day because you've got kidney stones that you're passing. Things that you want to avoid when it comes down to protein. I want you to avoid, I know I said moderation in all things, but you really need to avoid deli meats. When you have a cured meat that goes through this preservative process, you can't guarantee what they're utilizing to preserve these meats. And sometimes those things can include things, additives, preservatives that include oxalates. So not cutting them out completely, but maybe not eating like a deli sandwich, deli meat sandwich every single day with really large amounts of meat in it. Other things to understand too, especially if you're plant-based, if you have a plant-based protein, but you're also eating it with other plants, i.e. fruits and vegetables, those oxalates are gonna add up really, really quick. So you have to be really highly tuned to what foods you're eating and how much oxalate is in it. Moving on to carbohydrates, which is the next micronutrients, I broke it down into 3 different categories. You've got all of your grains, all your fruits and veggies, and then snacks. I just kind of threw them in the carb bucket because usually snacks have carbs in them. For grains, white rice, any sort of wild rice, brown rice, these are good sources. Low oxalate food, pasta and noodles. You can have white pasta, wheat-based pastas. Rice noodles are also a really good option. Again, all these things take into consideration how much you're going to be eating in one sitting. Flour baking products is just fine. Barley, quinoa. I put this in the grain section, even though it does have a good amount of protein in it. It's considered moderate oxalate, so just be careful how much you're eating in one sitting. Now, let's go to fruit and veggies. Starchy vegetables like potatoes are fine. One of the things that you can do to naturally lower the oxalate portion in this is to bake them and steam them and boil them. If you boil them, that is the best known way to maximize the way you're going to decrease oxalate. And what that means is when you boil potatoes in water, the oxalates are going to leach out into the water and you dump the water. That way, when you get your final cooked potato, it's going to have a lower content than versus if you were going to eat it raw, which who eats raw potatoes, but boiling them will decrease the oxalate amount more so than baking or steaming, or air frying is actually another really great way to lower the oxalate content. When it comes to fruits or even potatoes, like peeling the outside skin, a lot of times the skin is going to be a big container for the oxalate. So if you're eating potatoes, peel the potatoes. If you're eating apples, peel the apples, anything that has a skin on the outside. Now, when you think of kiwis, some people love kiwis. It is a moderate oxalate food. You can have them. Hopefully you don't eat the skin. I know some people do, but if you are going to eat the kiwi, definitely peel the skin. If there's anything that needs to be peeled, please peel it off, because a lot of times that's where it can have the highest oxalate content. Now, moving on to fats. This is a pretty cut and dry one. Any of your regular oils, obviously going for the higher quality, extra virgin olive oils, coconut oil, avocado oil, flaxseed oil, butter, ghee, heavy cream, which that kind of goes into the dairy portion too, cream cheese. All of these are great low oxalate suggestions. Nuts and seeds, the low oxalate nut options are macadamia nuts, pistachios, which are still technically moderate, and Brazil nuts. I say with nuts and seeds, just moderate. The portion sizes for nuts and seeds are small to begin with, so you just have to be extra careful. For example, chia seeds is somewhere around like 8 milligrams per tablespoon. Tablespoon is not that big, and that has more oxalates than what you should have in a low oxalate meal. So again, just using everything in moderation and utilizing this list. Now, what I recommend to patients who are on these low oxalate diets is take these lists that I give you, keep it on your phone, and use that as your grocery shopping list. That's going to make it a lot easier for you down the road when you're trying to pick and choose meals, because you don't just want to eat low oxalate, but you want to make sure that those meals are balanced, that you're getting enough protein, that you're getting healthy sources of carbohydrates, healthy sources of fats. So hopefully this list helps you guys. If you are watching this via YouTube, we will put it in as a resource in the links, and hope you found this helpful.